Welcome everyone to this webinar and in the Cities Talk Nature webinar series and the special series on business insights. We're really happy to have you here today. And this is the topic for today is nature-based solution public procurement experiences. And we have a really exciting hour and a half ahead of us with two great guests and some opportunities to have a conversation around this topic. This is the fourth of a six webinar series. You see the previous topics we've had earlier this year, and I'll come back to at the end, looking forward to our last two topics early next year. And just for a small framing of the topic today, this webinar series is part of an EU research project where we, amongst others, look at the policy mix to promote nature-based solutions in cities, and especially in the private sector. And through a number of interviews and conversations we've conducted, we've realized that a somewhat ignored aspect of the policy mix is the regulation of the market through public procurement rules. And if we think of a typology of a policy mix for nature-based solutions as being divided into legislative, regulatory, and strategic instruments, financial and economic instruments, we could envisage the public procurement rules as kind of the institution or the type of governance that binds together regulation and regulation of the market. And the other instruments, of course, are related to dissemination, communication, and innovation, and also agreement-based or cooperative instruments, public-private collaborations. Of course, public procurement rules can mobilize and connect to all of these types of incentives or instruments for promoting nature-based solutions, or at least making the competition between nature-based solutions and non-nature-based solutions a more of a level playing field. And if we take a slightly economical point of view and think of the potential revenues or potential benefits generated by, on the left-hand side, nature-based solutions, and the costs to private developers or private enterprises of nature-based solutions, and on the right-hand side, the revenue streams or benefits of non-nature-based solutions or grey solutions and their costs. Obviously, these will differ, but in many cases, nature-based solutions can be more cost-effective and maybe also, in some cases, have multiple benefits that in economic terms also exceed those of grey infrastructure solutions. But there's no way of knowing which solution is best without these details being revealed in a procurement process where the criteria level the playing field for these different types of design proposals. So that's the topic of today, is what those criteria should be, and have they been working with the systems that our two speakers today know from their respective countries. We'd love to have your questions to the speakers and to kind of guide our conversation, and also a small guide to our speakers. We've asked them, how may public procurement criterion processes disadvantage nature-based solutions in competition with grey solutions in their experience? In their experience, how have their companies overcome public procurement barriers to nature-based solutions in their project? And what public procurement rules could we envisage to level the playing field even more for nature-based solutions moving forward? And so we have Nicholas Salmon from Yes Innovation to talk about their experiences from Ecuador in Latin America. And we have Marcin Gajda from Gajda Arquitectura and AKG Arquitectura to also speak from his experiences in Poland and the EU. And after they've had the presentation and a round of questions, we'll have a closing round of comments and look a bit to the future for the next webinars. And during the presentations, to kind of keep a good order, if you'd post your questions in the chat, we'll read them up in the order that they come in to the speakers. So please post them as you think of them, and then we'll ask them when they've finished their presentations. So I'd like to introduce Nicolas Salmon. He's a co-founder and CEO of Yes Innovation, which is a nature-based solution enterprise in Quito, Ecuador, which specializes in planning and design of green infrastructure in cities. And I'll turn the presentation over to you, Nicolas.
Thank you so much for your presentation. We will try to share our experiences that we had in Ecuador with the purchase of nature-based solutions. We are Yes Innovation. We're a architecture company and urbanism company with a focus towards residents and night nature, urban nature. And we had a particular relationship with France. We have some activity there, and we are a company that has a vocation that goes beyond what's economic. It's a social and environmental commitment, and we're working currently to get our certification. So we have a team now. We are between 10 and 15 people. We try to group people from different profiles, and particularly working with solutions based in nature. And we've noticed that to having attorneys, biologists was super important, especially in addition to your traditional architectural team. So our ecological planning has a focus towards urban residents with leaning towards nature, a green approach from the global planning of neighborhoods, urban units that are much more pragmatic, smaller. We also have an architecture and design activity when we do design and build buildings, but we also do it in public spaces. This design activity is important for us so that we can tell or see the requirement of the terrain when we plan and when we design. So we always have some works in process. And a third activity that we do that's a bit parallel, which is a technological innovation activity where we develop or we put certain products. Since 2016, it's that we've been working in Ecuador, and we've generated 2 startups that create products such as the one here, which is an isolation material with natural ingredients, and also more technological design of products that are based on nature as well. And they also help us understand how the market works and what it needs and how it evolves. We work in these 4 international projects that are research projects. 3 of those are funded by the European Union and the French Development Alliance, and some are based in nature-based solutions, and they help us understand the mechanisms, the concepts, develop tools, experiment, and helps us advance in these processes on how to best implement urban nature. And on the other side, we have diverse applications in Ecuador, in cities in Ecuador, in the planning level and the design level, as well as the project implementation level. And the frame is a bit diverse. I'll give you some examples that reflect our experiences with this public contracting. To begin, we will start with our experience, what has been most efficient. As you know, that international organizations are very present in Latin America and work many times with organizations when we're talking about climate change and green structures. The international cooperation is very present and a good source of financing. So in several projects, it was international corporation who had gathered funds and generated the projects, organizing them in cooperation with the municipalities of the regions, but it came then the funding came from Cooperación Internacional or International Corporation, and then there are entities that were semi-public, semi-private, with purchase systems that are relatively similar to those of the private sector. It's very open and efficient in its process. For us, this system, a corporation that invests on the process, and the municipality, which is a key element of grants authorizations, validates the proposals, and of course evaluates the terrains. And of course the community with the participation requirements, and as operators of the entire project, makes it become concrete and turns into blueprints and actions in the actual terrain. And so that function works very well. And then the direct purchase from the municipality, I'll talk about that later, but an example of this scheme of the work that we had is something we did at the beginning of this year in Esmeraldas, was to work. Esmeraldas is north of Ecuador, near the coast, and it has a urban and natural context that is very particular, very interesting from an environmental point of view, and also has a lot of pressures from an urban end, and it has multiple risks that make it very unique. 3 years ago, we did the green infrastructure plan, and on this plan, we raised a series of projects and programs, and one of them was this one, to define the hill that is present in the city and the problems of that were with landslides that the population had near the hill. So we defined a resilient um, border that would provide a sense of protection using natural resources. And this was the proposal that is applied in all of the hill terrain in Esmeraldas. And the PNUDEC hired us at that time, and then towards the beginning of 2022, it asked us to work on help with one of their projects, an area that was defined between the river and the hill, where there had been some landslide, and where these things remain being important. Here are some specific details of the area, and we did some work of the risks that were there. We have a team of engineers, a geotechnical team that will help us understand the soil or land dynamics. We worked also with the population in the top portion, in the high area of the hill, in the low part. Both were related through direct contact and addressing the risk of landslides to understand the dynamics. And then finally, in this work process that includes traditional engineering, we reached this intervention proposal in this area where there were already existing landslides. We were able to think of elements C1, C2, C3. These are urban elements that, with the main objective to bring the population to the project and have the population understand why we were having this project, and also work on creating new interest in these projects, and also other areas that were more technical and more hidden in the slope. And here there's a bit more detail. Here we combine the gray and green work and whole set of urban solutions to help with the risks in the region, and then guide the streams so to avoid slides. And then there's a series of vegetation nuclei that can help the environment throughout time. And then there is a particular area that is prone to risk. There we did anchor to create a traditional engineering anchoring with also using cement elements in this critical area. And then in the bottom part, there were urban elements that also have to work with the water cycle, since water contributed to the slide risk. And then we now in this stage at the end of the year, the PNUD is working on the final designs and construction. At the end of this year, I believe, no, perhaps by the beginning of next year, but I want to say that a three-part cooperation is very efficient and allows to quickly uh, accomplish or fulfill um, all the goals and have created this double dimension. So I'll just go past these images. Another initiative that we had, it's an initiative that was a direct purchase, one from the Quito municipality in 2020. At some point, it was very much a pioneering project that working with nature, and we had a very close contribution with one of the entities in the north city that invited us to this place, which is the border of the volcano. And for 15, these like fog capturing fog screens that come from the lower part of the volcano after a certain time, and that works very well. These screens work very well in this area for more than 15 years. And the idea was to replicate this type of system in other regions in the north of the metropolitan district of Quito. So they called us several times with the content of this bid, and this bid was a hybrid between requirements for people that knew about green infrastructure. They had the knowledge and the experience, so we fit in there very well. But they also required traditional engineering as far as material organization and certain vehicles, certain materials, and we did not fit there at all. And in the end, we presented, we applied and it didn't work. We knew that the bid was canceled and it was deserted because all of the entities that were interested had a side missing, a part missing, either the green part or the gray part. And that sort of gave us a learning opportunity, and us also as an interested party, as how we had to get structure to be able to respond to these type of requests. And we still had some bit of structuring work to be able to respond, and we stayed in also, or how we stayed in communication with the government to so that they can diversify their bids a bit. Another experience that we had, something that lasted 5 years in Quito. We, as partners of the project, Quito was part of the project, and we had this neighborhood, San Enrique de Velasco. And at some point in the co-design project in Quito, we had to co-design spaces, NBS spaces. In the neighborhood, the population told us that they were very interested for something to happen in that G Street because they were lacking pavement and and they wanted it tended to damage the road, and we had no interest in putting pavement. That's not our goal, but we gave them proposals of natural solutions. So it was a process with surprises, as you can see. So we did a co-design with them. We created some rain reception segments. We did some created some perspective so that they could see what our intentions were. After several meetings, we met with the neighbor in the street itself and to co-design, and we launched one weekend this Minga, which is a typical participatory neighborhood activity where they all chip in, and we launched a very low tech method with materials available locally that could be replicated by the neighbors. So we used bricks. It wasn't the best choice, we realized later, but it was part of the trial process. And then we installed a series of water gardens with these uh, areas that allowed the water capture, and they would flood, and the first couple of months were interesting. And then we had an incident in the same time that we were developing the process. We realized that the local norm for the neighborhood, there was a document which is the road trace, which covers the main roads. They had a technical profile, and they had to create a road profile, and it had to fit or not in this regulation that was established in 1985. It did not foresee the use of any trees. Only in two very small roads do they foresee the use of trees in the middle of the roadway, which is not possible because the people use vehicles in that passage. And in the other streets, the other ones were secondary roads. It's not possible to integrate the use of a tree because that regulation says that that should not be the case. And we realized that even though the municipality was involved in this, uh, even though there was the entire will to deliver urban trees, what ruled was this norm. And so they told us that the trees that we had planted were illegal trees. So their implementation was considered illegal, and that could not be the case that they remain. So this street is a bit abandoned, so we thought nothing would happen. But the neighborhood itself had won a participatory budget. It's one of the processes that the city has for projects, and that neighborhood had requested a budget for that street, and it won this. And that's why we did these sort of rain gardens. And so the people were clearly interested in creating and putting that pavement. So we started the works. We tried to negotiate for those pavement works could be done together with the water gardens that we had implemented. But that road norm did not make it possible. The public contracting had already taken place, and it strictly specified this particular norm. So they removed the rain garden 6 months after they had been implemented. The neighbors recovered the plants. Then afterwards there was pavement. Now they have a wonderful street that has none. We've gone back to the old method, but the neighbors themselves went back and put the trees back. So they're still illegal, but were they put there by the neighbors. not following the water garden techniques, so there isn't that connection, but at least that happened. So for us, that was key. That learning was key, that we have to be very careful with norm legislation, even at a very low level, because that legislation was used by many people in the municipality and by people that every do interventions on streets every day, particularly when it comes to maintenance. And even though there are great goals in the city to use green infrastructure, to use urban nature to improve policy or reduce risk in the city, what matters is that low level legislation. So that was one of the things that we learned in that, and we've put in that guide that we are learning and we are currently created, and it's included in Clever Cities, and it's once focused on solutions, nature-based solutions in Quito, and we had experience in a neighborhood. We also did a series of workshops with the um, interested parties in the community to do who did designs, who did planting in the city and public spaces. We realized that there is an operator, a public company that does public works, that does works every day, and then there are also diverse entities, public companies, municipal companies that do work in certain parts of the regions or parks. And within that multiplicity of parties, we learned to see how they worked, and that's how we realized that that low level legislation of are key, and that those rule when you're doing a design. So when you do a design, when you have a bid, is that legislation that will be guiding, even if there's a higher level one saying otherwise. And then they had database of specific databases that when in those databases there wasn't a solution available. For example, we talked about the rain garden, and if in that database it does not include a rain garden, the operator has to request 3 quotes to 3 providers. So they have to find a provider, contact them, request 3 quotes, analyze it, and then generate that new product in quotes, you could say, in the database. Since the operators do not have the time to do this, they simply use what they have in the database, which are traditional systems um, to work for roadworks, which is what always ends up being used. So that practical part we noticed that was a key part. And they informed us in the bidding processes, the government officials have very small amount of times to define the blueprints, and they asked us clearly to provide blueprints or layouts of solutions that could be replicated, that could perhaps they could be adapted, modified, but that serve as a base. They also indicated that there were reference prices needed, reference prices that would allow them to sort of budget the projects. And when we provided this guide, we coincided with the work that we were developing in interlace to elaborate 3D objects in a SketchUp, and we did 33 types of SBN solutions in SketchUp with the blueprints that you see to the right, so that they could be useful to the practitioners as a design base to copy paste in a bid or to adapt, modify, etc., so that people can appropriate them. And we were surprised that there was very little material available that provided NBS. There's a lot of some options, but there were not many like these rain gardens. and we are now in a process of verification so that they can be officially in SketchUp to be available at the beginning of next year. And in Clever Cities, like we created that guide for Quito, we included this list of challenges in the guide. So it's like a first contribution. And we see that we also need to better structure the solutions, probably developing local regulation, because we see that the public sector needs more credibility for these solutions. Traditional engineering and with the gray solutions have a lot of credibility. They have a very efficient calculating ability with efficiency, with loads, price, in comparison to the NBS solutions that still don't have that available. So probably we have to develop a legislation so that accessibility can be greater to these type of solutions. So it's an invitation. I'll end with this, with an invitation to invent, because with these techniques we need to invent, monitor solutions, and yeah, I think that with that we try to contribute a small grain of sand to this. And yeah, I hope that with our colleagues have the same and their same willingness, we're able to proceed. Thank you.
Fantastic, Nicola. That's super, very inspiring. I'd like to invite you to post questions in the chat to Nicola's presentation. I know that I have a few, so I'll jump right in, Nicola. One sort of, you mentioned that a lot of your work has been in this three-way actor collaboration with international funding, but it's always involved the municipality. And one big question is, have you seen any development in the capacity of municipalities to write terms of reference that they've maybe picked up from these kind of collaborations? Has there been any kind of learning process in writing terms of reference for nature-based solutions since you started working that's been transferred to the direct public procurement?
Yeah, there is real progress on that. I mean, from the first work we did, which was probably the green infrastructure plan that we did in Esmeraldas. From now, where the city is working on how to apply the projects, how to develop more projects, I mean, there is real progress. Also because, I mean, it's not only NBS and green infrastructure, it's also because climate change challenges, risk, exposure, and somewhat biodiversity, but it's still a bit weak, I mean, in the country. But climate change has come into force very strongly, and really municipalities are taken that as a strong input, and they really learned to structure their tendering process with the keywords associated to that, and it starts including green infrastructure and NBS. So yeah, I think there is real progress. We are very close with the municipality of Quito, and we see the difficulties that it means. And we cooperate both with the environmental secretariat and the planning secretariat. They both have different ways to conceive the NBS, but they are both in the process of trying to push forward the capacity to write, the capacity to go faster, and the capacity to open the tendering process to those new actors that can bring more green in the city. I mean, it takes time because it's a bit complex, but the effort is here.
Encouraging. The other thing that I was fascinated by was that you, as a small or smallish enterprise, that you are actually voluntarily creating standardized material for nature-based solutions, and that the channel through which you, let's say, make it open source is through SketchUp. It made me think, do you, or is there a National Standards Bureau for, I'm sure there is for construction, but is there a standardization bureau that could adopt some of your work and carry it on? Or is that not a viable route?
No, it could be. It could be. We have some standards for bamboo construction, for example, or wood construction as well, specific to Ecuador. So and there are some maybe not NBS, but at least SUDS, for example, sustainable urban drainage system. We have some international standards about that. I think there are some in the region, in Brazil and in Chile. I know that some cities in Mexico have developed standards for green infrastructures. So I mean, it's starting, no? And when some countries are developing standard, then it's easier to develop, especially because the language is common. So and most of the time the contexts are quite similar. So yeah, I think that there is this possibility in the 5 to 10 next years to have this process of having local standards. And hopefully we can contribute to that with our guidance and solutions, and that's also part of the purpose of that. So that we can have the maximum credibility for the practitioners to know what they can do and what's the results of it and so on. Still, we miss that, but I mean, it's still quite new in the country talking about NBS, and we need some time to have those new products.
I wanted to ask more specifically in the tendering documents that you've encountered, or let's say all of the examples you provided have a social design, co-design component. And I was wondering, this is not strictly speaking part of the nature-based solutions technical remit, but it's definitely by experience extremely important. So my question was, is the kind of social process design issue, is that part of the tendering, or is this something you add to your bid?
It was well, the IUCN standards for NBS says that you have to talk with people and work with people, no? So it's kind of advice. If you apply this standard, and we used to propose it in our methodology, then we have to follow that. But actually, all the projects we had with international cooperation are requiring for that. It has been systematical now. So we're happy to do that. With working with the municipalities, it was not so direct, but more proposed like an option or not proposed at all. So then it depends on on what you. We used to propose it because we think it's important, and we see the added value, and we see it as a way to differentiate ourselves as well. But still it's not systematic from the direct municipal public procurement.
Great. Well, I still have some questions, but I'll save them for later, because it would be I don't know, Marcin, if you would like to ask any questions now, or save them for later. But if not, then I think we want to talk.
I said for the later.
Yeah, great. So I'd like to thank you so much, Nicolas. It was very inspiring, and it may be an obscure topic, but I thought it was fascinating. Thanks for giving us a look also behind the scenes from the institutional perspective. So I'm going to just share my screen to introduce you properly. Let's see here. So Marcin Gaida, I'd like to welcome you. You're a graduate of the Horticultural Technical School in Piotrkowice, Male. I'm sorry for the pronunciation.
Very good. Very good.
and of the Faculty of Horticulture at the Agricultural Academy in Krakow. You're the founder of two companies, Gaida Architektura Krajobrazu and AKG Architektura Krajobrazu. And you're also the founder of the Association of Landscape Architecture. So lots of experience. We're really happy that you could join us from Krakow today, and really looking forward to your view and to present your company. So please. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So
I'm welcome you from very snowy Krakow city, -5 degrees and 30 centimeters of snow. So we nearly stopped working this week because it's very, very cold. And we have some, especially last year's progress in this project, nature-based solution included, because 6 years ago was big change in our city. Our local government involved the greenery department, and they bring all greenery in one hand. So that's mean parks and even streets and small green meadows or small grasses around the street. They're all forestry. We have a few hundred hectares of the forest in our city, and this in one hand, in one administration, and then give very, very good effect, because in the past was really, believe me, disaster. The road power and the green was above the power of the road administration, and so was nothing in the natural-based solution, nothing by the green. So from 6 years, we are quite busy with our city, and we are lucky with this. The first project is about the river. On the top is the Vistula, is the biggest Polish river. It's going through the city center downtown in the Krakow. And we are working on the park on the Wilga, very small river, is only 40 kilometers long, and we are designed park just 6 kilometers long around the river. Very narrow, because as you see, that high density and the block houses coming from 60s, 70s, 80s, and 2000, because it's quite near to the city center, this area. So, but because of river, and they stopped build in this area, and we are lucky some greenery area left. So from the beginning, I was not happy because the client pressed us, don't design the green. But you must know I'm plant lovers, and I'm a horticulturist, I'm gardener, basically. So I like plants, especially perennials. So I really like this put to this parks we design. And I tried to discuss with them many times, but investor, that's mean greenery department, was really strong in this point, and they like very natural park in this place. So you see on the following pictures that the atmosphere of this park is very wildy, and the wild pigs, they are coming to here, and deers and beavers, and there is maybe slow down with this presentation, and it's, as you see in the first slide, is really dense house building around, and now you feel like in the nature. So finally, when I coming in the autumn through this park, I said to myself, yeah, the client was absolutely right, giving this place to the nature, and don't put any additional trees or perennials, even they don't accept bulbs. There's very important in our climates for very yearly spring effect. But now people are happy to observe nature, and it's very much birds in this area. You must know about it. So the songbirds is incredible. especially in the springtime. And people are happy, and we use this small retention place around the footpath. So we go with the footpath a little bit higher. So from footpath to footpath, we collect rainwater and they stay. So we have no pipelines to collect rainwater to the pipes at all. So, and when it's very stormy weather, that happens 3-4 times, and this small reservoir for retention are full here, the water goes directly to the river after that. And we are proud to say that we received from two prizes for this park. One is for disabled person using the wheelchairs, and we are lucky because we had in our project asphalt footpath, and it's just simple gravel, use it, and if it's compacted, it's nothing against people with the problem with the communication. So the wheelchairs, they go around with no problem, and they have easy access to this park because it's no steps at all. And the gravel, they cannot make any problem to the people. And the second prize we received is from European EFLA, European Foundation of Landscape Architecture, for nature-based solution type of design. And this is some posts, and we describe the birds in this posts. They are around, and as you see on this picture, the maintenance is very, very low. They just cut 0.5 meter, 1 meter greenery around the footpath, and then the rest is pure nature. So it's very easy and very cheap to maintenance this park, and people like it very much. We always make public consultation, and we meet the people. The first phase all the time is we ask the people what they like, what they see, how they like the design, and what the people need. And the second meeting all the time is we give the proposal what we see and what they like to give them, and we receive direct feedback. And some other colleagues, they are afraid about public consultation. They don't like, because really sometimes it's very heavy atmosphere with some persons, but that according to our experience, we don't worry, because normally people ask for very logical things in the park. So that's mean we do design anyway, this way people like it. So and this is what we don't worry about the public consultation, and we like them. Especially talks with the teenagers on these meetings are very, very interesting. And they are very proud because it's this area, and they feel that we design really for them, not for us. It's not our garden. We design to the people. So maybe next picture, please. Yeah. So you see the footpath, and people, kids use this really daily, even on the snowy days like now we have in Krakow. And next picture, please. Yeah, do see the connection, the footpath and the small river goes together perfectly. And yeah, and next, yeah, we make some viewpoints, and on these viewpoints is description of the birds or other animals in this area. And we don't do make any artificial planting design in this place because people don't ask, and the client really was sure that we must leave this piece of nature in the middle of town for the people and for the nature as well. Yeah. So people are very happy. And you see on the back side of the picture, the start a very huge housing area. So this is very good for the people because in this area of the park live nearly 100,000 inhabitants in the walking distance, 50 minutes accessible to the park. So the comfort of the living in this area was increasing because before it was just a bushy and quite danger region. Now is safe and people are coming and happy. Yep. Yeah, so that we make description of the birds, that people have time to discover this. In the meantime, yeah, we make some picnic places for the families. Sometimes we see they make birthday parties and some other parties here with kids. And as you know, the people really love the nature and be in the peace atmosphere coming out from these apartments and block houses, making deep relax in this situation. Yep. Yeah, and this is only one footpath for the bikers because the bikers hate gravel. So we must do this because it's the part of the very long biking footpath. It's 15 kilometers long, and the part is coming through our park. Yep. And not only kids are coming, of course, to this park, and senior group of people are coming very often during daytime to meet each other. So it's very sociable park in my mind, and we are happy. And we use all the time the local material, and we never use the other trees. Normally, in our climate, we use Polish larch as a tree. Okay, this is nature, and the second project is in the middle of this city. Is like 500 meters to the market square in our city, so it's very, very dense. And on the top you see use of this place last 40 years was the parking for the cars, and people vote many years, don't build nothing here, just leave the green. And finally we won the competition for park in the middle. The scale is very small, it's less than 1 hectare in total area. And we won this competition 2 years ago, and was complete this year for the summer. And this project is also about the water. We collect water from the building around to the reservoir, and we will see on the next pictures And you see that it's really a very high dense urbanization in this area because it's middle of the downtown, and we put thousands of shrubs and thousands of perennials in this area. Because all the time we are thinking about the small animals and especially birds. They are attractive very much this area, and they coming very often, and they start to live in this park because before was just parking place. And yeah, you see the roof, the big roof is the old military building from 19th century. It is 250 meters long, and we collect all the water from the roof and we put down to the park. We collect them, clean them, and put them to the people, and especially to the kids to play with them. And part of this water, of course, we use for the watering. Yes. So this is the construction phase. Half of plantation is down, and on the right, this stream is partly built, but doesn't work. And it's the, like, I think April this year. That was the final phase of construction of this park. We go closer. We built some reservoir for the water and for the filtration system, and the natural filtration system as well for plants. And next picture maybe. Yeah. And this is the reservoir for the plants, and we use all of the caulk because the water must be very high pH and high as possible. Then we have less algae, and that is effect of the clean water kids like very, very much. And this is something about the regulation that in all Poland, all fountain water must be chloride. So that is kind of absurd, but it's kind of safety regulation about against Escherichia coli. So what we don't understand, but this is fact about this law in Poland. But then is reason we don't put fountain here because we don't like chlorine in the water, and kids don't like too, and they have a time to play with the water without chlorine. And we are very proud about it because till now that happens not so often in the cities, that water have no chlorine. So, and this is construction phase of this small basin for plants and for the kids. And so next, please. And there's another phase of this construction, and we have two canals. One is clean with the water for the as a playground, and on the bottom of this park is a canal fulfilled with the plants as a filtration system. So this is basin for playing for the people. On the left hand side, you see the deck dry. This is the wooden deck, and this is covered filtration system, biological filtration system. Then we pump water constantly to clean them. And yeah, this is near the end of our job. And yeah, you see some hard works, hard landscaping before the end, and then it's after we put the grass in the middle of the park, the lawn area to relax the people. And the next piece, yeah, as you see that we love the perennials. We cooperate in this park with Heiner Lutz from Munich about perennials, and Charlie Hasse from Edinburgh, and all design team. There was more than 20 person each branch involved to the design. Yeah. So we have very good perennials nurseries around Poland, so we use them all the time, and we put like 40,000 perennials in this park and 50,000 bulbs to give the spring effect. And so I feel that fulfill biodiversity in our project totally. The lawn on the right is a little bit above the footpath. The part of the footpath is gravel because people like granite, and so we made partly hard surface, but mainly is the gravel footpath. So the edges, oh, this is big edge because and makes structure, and otherwise people come in. And what you don't see yet is many hedges that we like in the future make them natural shape, and they are not simple boxes like normally we see in many parks, but natural shape. And this is mixed plants, so we use the mix of 6 bushes to make more attractive to the birds and to the people, to avoid some of our colleagues said concrete green or beton green make design more lively to the people. So there's opening ceremony, so nothing interesting. And this is our park. Maybe in some other slides we see the water from the close distance. Yeah, you see the water on the right down the corner, and the canal coming, a small stream as a canal coming down, because the altitude is only 4 meters from one side to another. And of course the people like lawn in the summertime very much, and is used very much for the people. And you see the small canal, and give only 7 centimeters of the running water, but water is running constantly from April up to end of October in our climate, and then we must switch off. So this canal coming empty, but the basin is all the time with with plants and with water, of course, even if it's frozen. So the perennials is freshly planted, so the perennial meadow is not in the full bloom because it's just after a few months after replanting, but next 3 years they're full growing, and that will be the best effect, I think. That's what is simple in the design we like very much. Of course, canal is not very natural, but this is middle of downtown, and it's a little bit formal design we propose in this park. But because of dense flowers from shrubs, bushes, and trees, the nature, it's coming to the city anyway. We know about it by experience. And this is, as you see, this small water reservoir. The part is for the plants, the part is for the play, and kids use, and the teenager and student in the morning after they coming from the night party in the summertime, they use as well. So the water plants are not spectacular yet because it's after, as I said, is after a few months after planting, but it's on the process. There is the end of canal, is the natural biological filter. In this canal, the only plants, high dense plants, and calc in the bottom, and it's doing well. On the right, we have the roses. Yeah, next, please. Yeah, there's this end of the autumn. So we see some perennials are in flowering and growing very much during these few months. We are trying to be very careful with plants and give quick as possible effect, and we use natural fertilizing to put some microbial life to the soil. We find this very important part, this life in the soil, but we normally thinking about too less about it. But they are very complicated process in the soil, and they are very important for us, not only for plants. We have the freshly transplanted trees. Was planted this year. And we divided for 8 specific gardens, and these gardens are specific in colors. For example, the red garden, blue garden, yellow garden, etc. And the aster give even in November in flower, what is something unusual in our city and in our climate. Normally, October is the end of most flowering plants in our climate zone. Yeah, I have 2 companies. So the one company is the design company, and we design not more than 2 parks per year. We are a very small team, and Of course, we have expanding the team during the process because we need a specialist. As I told that in one part we use 20 person to design perfectly, and I have this AKG part. This is the company for doing hard and soft landscaping around Poland, only in Poland. If you have any question, I'm happy to ask.
Thank you so much, Martin, for very inspirational and beautiful designs. We have one question in the chat from Jagger Biggs, who asks, you mentioned that when you talk with teenagers, they love the park and feel like it's designed for them. Did you involve young people when working on the designs for the park?
Yeah, we really love to spend the time with the teenager and the talk. They are, and by my experience, is most cultural part of the audience, because some old ladies, they are very nervous and very really unpolite to us, but talking with the teenagers makes us very, very happy. They are very high culture normally, and they really point us, you remembered about this, and you remembered about this, you remember this footpath I used for the old people, and for example, maybe you put some more bunches in this, maybe you put some screen around a net around our football place, because there are many mothers with the small kids coming around, so there is not safe that we play. So they are very carefully looking for all community. So I've a lot of positive experience with talks with the teenager in this phase.
Thanks for that. There's a couple of questions in the chat about certificates. I'll pass that on to Opla. But before we have a question for Nicolas, but before we go on, I would like to ask you, Marcin, about your experience with the terms of reference for the competitions for these park designs. Two or three things leapt to my attention. One was that you had a very large design component in the last example, so it must have been quite costly. And from previous interviews, I've heard from various landscape architects that sometimes in the terms of reference, the design component is given very little weight in the criteria. So I'm wondering if you could say a little bit about what's traditionally what's given weight in the competition criteria.
Yeah, that is big problem in Poland, because we have very small tradition in the competition in Poland. Normally they go straight and they just make a tender for the design. So it's normally give very, very low effect in the design last years around Poland, because especially villages, small cities, they cannot judge the cheapest winning design. So it's normally is going problematic. Yeah, but we like when this competition, and of course I know personally that I'm owner of the company. They don't earn money with the design. I like make this piece for the people and for the years to use. And that was my strategy to this project. And to forget about money, we do in best team to best design to the people and to the client to be happy. But normally, of course, it's not possible. But back to this question, that is problem, because normally we winning not by competition. There was one one example, we won by the competition, this tender, but normally it's just tender, and we must give the good price to the client, and then we win. And so there is very bad habit, we feel.
Okay, I'll allow myself one more question, which goes first to you, but also to Nicolas, which is the role of providing some kind of solution for maintenance post construction. In your experience, is that important as a criteria for winning the project? You mentioned that your projects are, at least the first one, was very low maintenance. Was that important in getting the contract?
Yeah, to getting as a designer, no, they have nothing like that in the criteria. The local administration doesn't think so far, I must say. So this is very good sample, the river part, because that is very unusual. The client strongly asks for nature and in the same time for low maintenance, and this is very rare in the Polish market. Very, very rare.
Okay, thank you. I have two questions, one for Nicolas and one for Marcin, but I'd like to ask Nicolas if you have any professional insights or questions for Marcin, and Marcin, if you'd like to ask Nicolas a question.
Yeah, I had a question. The presentation was super interesting and very two different examples. No, very very nice, very inspiring. I was wondering, how do you work with your clients, with the municipality? Is that do they put the requirements about biodiversity, about rain management that you introduced in your second project, or is it coming from you as a proposal to introduce this?
It's coming from me.
Okay.
It's coming from me because I'm gardener, so I choose my life in the age of 14, and I'm happy to now. So I love plants, especially perennials, and I see this is the power in the parks, because they bring more nature. The old type parks, that is only poor grass and some trees. It's something I hated. So I like to change in my project for more life and more biodiversity to the parks, and this is my idea. Now they slowly the EU program press clients, because they are big funds to give biodiversity to the small cities, to the small villages, but they really don't understand what it means. That is something in the EU program, biodiversity, and they asked us, let's do something with biodiversity, because then we receive money from Brussels. So the normally standard of discussion with the client is quite poor. It's pity.
And one second question. You mentioned that in the first place, in the first park, which is the very natural one, you mentioned that you had there were safety issues before in the rear, and that there are not anymore. Safety is a key thing in Ecuador and in generally in Latin America. So I was wondering how was the safety issue solved, or was it just officializing the park with the path and the furniture and so on, or was it a specific process too?
Yeah, that's from the time we put footpath and electricity to this area, and people start using daily. And of course, in the season like now, 3:30 is already dark, but people, they use up to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, they walk to the dogs. The dogs are, and other problems that people have 2 or 3 dogs in apartments, so they walk with the dogs all the time. So, and they make this place safe, because not only 2 person use per hour, but they use 100 people per hour. So, and this I feel how they convert for secret place, only bushes. Everyone was afraid to use the, and now because of thousands of people use every day this place, now it's coming be free and safe. That is quite interesting, because in this park they have no cameras at all. So this is not camera and security make this. Just design, give it to the people, and people start to use very often.
Great, thanks. We have 5 minutes left of our time. We have one question, so I'll just open up for a general debate now. So Marcin, if you want to also ask questions to Nicolas. There's one question from one of the participants, from Roberto Enrique Stoman to Nicolas.
What were the biggest challenges when you were trying to treat the project with the landslide? Well, the main challenge was credibility for green infrastructure as a means of responding to that requirement, the landslide requirement. The UNDP arrived with a requirement and a request saying we need to address this landsliding issue because it's very serious and there's already been tragedies in the area. But we want to resolve it with nature-based solutions and green infrastructure. So there were lots of works as of the 80s, a lot of ecological engineering that mainly uses green systems to respond to traditional engineering requirements, to manage to use ecology in the area and for slopes, and nature-based solutions arrived years ago, but in very specific areas. So we tried to look to these solutions, and we were inspired by the movement of ecological engineering, and we worked on that with engineers, so traditional engineers who tend to propose traditional solutions when it comes to landsliding. So to anchor these slopes, to use geotextiles or metal or contention walls. So we knew we didn't have the budget for those types of solutions. We knew that wasn't necessarily the objective, but we tried to turn the functions of these solutions into green elements. So vegetation solutions, filtration, and we used lots of things from lots of elements of ecological engineering. So we brought together ecology and traditional solutions. It worked quite well. We didn't provide calculations about the level of resistance that certain designs would provide because we didn't have that capacity, and it's a dynamic process. You have to evolve towards the result. But we signed the project as green specialists, and we also signed it with engineers who were working with us and who were convinced that it was going to work and that it was going to provide an efficient and cheap response and an ecological response to that problem. So obviously there were challenges. It was very technical, but I think it's one of the biggest challenges to nature-based solutions, which is linked to demonstrating its efficiency in solving challenges in cities, whether they are technical or not.
Thanks. So we're coming to the end now, but I'd like to take advantage of the fact that we have two experts on either side of the Atlantic in two different continents, and to give you, Marcin and you, Nicolas, the final word in saying, from what you saw of your colleague's presentation, do you have any shared experiences or shared challenges regarding procurement or the competitive design in your projects? So if Nicolas, if you'd like to make some kind of final word on what you saw from Marcin's project, and then Marcin, vice versa, from Nicolas' project. Go ahead, Nicolas.
Yeah, so I hope that I really like the diversity of the two projects. No, in the same city, I think something which is very design, but still very natural, and the other which is almost conservative. No, in the philosophy of letting the nature be as it is, and yeah, looking at it and trying to be able to share the place with the nature without modifying it. I think it's super interesting. I think that we are really the same context. I mean that in the cities in Ecuador and in Latin America, we have those great natural areas that should be yeah, more connected to the cities. So I think we could have similar context, and I would really like to see tenders, projects asking for making the connection with the natural places and the city, trying to find the best of the two places. No, how you did in your first project, and I would like also to see more project about NBS integrated in the urban environment. I mean, the more dense one, with more formalized, let's say, design. We're still lacking a bit of formalism in the projects we are doing, because mostly we are introducing NBS in peripheral environment, in places where there are many issues, many risks, and where the same municipal entities are not that much involved because of the capacity and well, for many reasons. And so when we go into those places, we are facing budget issues, and then I mean the solutions are still not that much formal. And I hope that slowly we can go towards more formalism, because it helps I think a lot to NBS to be taken more seriously, with more credibility, and yeah, to have them introduced as a more as a solution, and not only as an aesthetic thing. So yeah.
Thanks. That was a really nice. Marcin, do you have any observations on what you saw from Ecuador?
Yeah, what you said, that this is a problem for you, that you are working for peripheric areas, and I find this is very important job, that you are very close to the people. As I saw on the pictures, then the small bricks canal, and the people who was involved to this, and they feel that they are really work for them, and they happy with that, and they was I feel from the picture they are very close to the project, and they must be happy to be part of this project. So I think this is quite basic and very good and important job for the local, very local, small communities you are working with. So I'm very happy to see this, that not only from the president of the city, from the top going ideas, but you have time to speak with these people living in the small areas, and this is what I like very, very much.
Fantastic. So it's great to be able to learn from each other. I'm really sad that we only have an hour and a half together today. I'd like to thank Nicolas Salmon and Marcin Gaida for your really precious time, and I really hope to be able to visit your cities and visit your work. I haven't had the privilege yet in Quito. I have had the privilege to visit a couple of Marcin's projects. And I encourage everybody on the call to also take that opportunity if you're in their cities. I just wanted to say that you're very welcome to return, our speakers as well as our audience, to the last two webinars. Nicolas mentioned the topic of certification. in his presentation, and we'll look more into how important that can be for small and medium enterprises for nature-based solutions in our next webinar in January. So I hope to see some of you, all of you, and even more back then. And I wish you a very good morning or evening, wherever you are in the world. And thanks again. So thanks, Marcin, thanks, Nicolas, and thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.